Hey everyone, I'm really excited to talk to you all today. I'm Ryan, a Senior Product Manager at AWS Data Exchange, and I'm here with Niraja, a Principal Product Manager with Amazon Redshift, and Alex Bohl, a Director of Data Innovation at Mathematica. And we are incredibly excited to go and talk to you today about a feature that we launched in preview a couple months ago called AWS Data Exchange for Amazon Redshift. And we'd like to talk to you about how you can use it to find, subscribe to, and start querying third-party data in minutes. So I'm going to start by, we'll walk you through AWS Data Exchange and the feature AWS Data Exchange for Amazon Redshift. Niraja will talk to you a little bit about the use cases and how it works. Then I'll turn it over, or then Niraja will turn it over to Alex, who will discuss with you how you can use AWS Data Exchange for Amazon Redshift to improve patient care. And then the real excitement starts when you'll get a demo. Following that, you'll get a summary, and we'll go from there. So, starting with AWS Data Exchange. AWS Data Exchange is a marketplace connecting organizations looking to use third-party data, who we refer to as data subscribers, or subscribers for short, with organizations looking to license their data, who we refer to as data providers, or providers for short. And AWS Data Exchange, it provides one place to exchange data publicly or privately. It allows you to easily manage your subscriptions. It automates the billing and payments process, and it allows you to natively integrate the data that you subscribe to with AWS. So since launch, AWS Data Exchange enabled sharing all file types supported by Amazon S3. So we've had data providers such as like Foursquare, Experian, Shutterstock, and FactSet who've been licensing data through files to data subscribers like KKR, Merck, Nextdoor, Yum, and Converge Health. And the great thing about this was when we launched with files is that it allowed you to support allowed you to exchange any sort of data file type available on Amazon S3. So immediately we were able to go and support really any sort of data transaction. But the thing is, as we were listening to our subscribers, we heard that there were some key things that people looking for third-party data were actually looking to improve. People wanted to go and query and analyze the latest third-party data within minutes. Apparently, waiting for the data is not like a theme park, not more exciting. People don't like to extract, transform, and load the data. Not surprising. People also wanted the latest data. They wanted the latest data easily without having to go and constantly re-upload new files. And they also want to go and manage everything in a single place. Now, on our data provider side, they wanted a simple and convenient licensing experience. They also didn't want to go and extract, transform, and load the data. And we found out that many people were starting with a data warehouse like Amazon Redshift. They were unloading the data from that data warehouse into files so that other customers using Amazon Redshift could go and load this back into Amazon Redshift and start querying it themselves. They also wanted to go and offer multiple delivery methods in a single product. And they wanted to go and automate all their entire processes, automate entitlement, billing, and payment management. So we have a solution, which is AWS Data Exchange for Amazon Redshift, which lets you find and subscribe to and query third-party data in the Amazon Redshift Cloud Data Warehouse in minutes. So talking about what this does is for data subscribers, it allows you to query data in minutes in Amazon Redshift, no ETL. Actually, within minutes of subscribing, you can go into your data warehouse, connect to the database, and start querying the third-party data you subscribe to. It also allows you to use the latest data instantly, because when you're using AWS Data Exchange for Amazon Redshift, you have read-only access to the source data. So whenever a data provider makes a change, you're able to go and immediately view that change yourself. Additionally, it allows you to automate data entitlement, billing, and payment management, as we said, which is a key thing that our data providers were looking for. And it also allows multiple data delivery methods on a single product, whether or not it's files, APIs, or database access. With one subscription, you get everything. And now at this point, I'm going to go and turn it over to my colleague Niraja, who will walk you through a little bit more information about how it works.
Thanks, Ryan. Hi, everyone. This is Neeraja Rantachintala. I'm going to briefly talk about Amazon Redshift and the key capabilities that power the integration with AWS Data Exchange. Amazon Redshift is a fast, scalable, secure, and fully managed cloud data warehouse that makes it simple and cost-effective to analyze all your data using standard SQL. Tens of thousands of customers use Redshift to process exabytes of data per day and power analytic workloads such as high-performance business intelligence reporting, data exploration, dashboarding applications, and real-time analytics. Redshift offers rich analytics functionality such as complex joins, being able to directly query the data from Amazon S3 Data Lake and operational databases such as Amazon Aurora, Amazon RDS, materialized views, semi-structured data support, stored procedures, and in-database machine learning. All these capabilities now can be used as part of the integration with AWS Data Exchange. Redshift also seamlessly integrates with other AWS services such as Amazon Kinesis, AWS QuickSight, Amazon SageMaker, Amazon EMR, AWS Glue. So you have completely integrated data management solution end to end. Since Redshift launched in 2012, our focus has always been on providing customers with the best possible performance at scale and at the lowest possible cost. For most organizations across the globe, the amount of data that is going into their data warehouse is exponentially growing, and the number of people who want insights from the data is increasing daily. Because of this, Redshift continuously innovates to handle the growing volume of data and the demand for insights. With the columnar storage, distributed data processing, and many other optimizations, Redshift offers up to 3x better price performance than any other cloud data warehouse. One critical aspect of a data warehouse is how does it scale as your data grows? Will you be paying more per terabyte as you add more data, or will your costs remain consistent and predictable? We work to make sure that Redshift delivers not only strong performance as your data grow, but also consistent price performance. We tested Redshift price performance using the Cloud Data Warehouse benchmark with 3 terabyte, 30 terabyte, and 100 terabyte datasets on 3 different Redshift cluster sizes. As you can see in the diagram here, Redshift price performance actually improves from 2.8 to 2.26 per terabyte as your datasets grow. The foundational capability that enables AWS Data Exchange integration with Amazon Redshift is Redshift's data sharing. Data sharing allows you to securely and easily share live data across multiple Amazon Redshift clusters without the complexity and the delays associated with data copies and data movement. Clusters that are sharing the data can be in the same AWS account or they could be in different AWS accounts. There are broadly 4 key benefits or value propositions with data sharing. The first is Redshift offers providers a simple way to directly share data from their data warehouse. There is no need to unload data to S3 and ingest into the AWS Data Exchange. Data sharing is instant. Once the provider decides to share data, they can do that in minutes. No data copies, no data movement is necessary. Data also can be shared at many granularities like tables, views, user-defined functions, an entire schema, or objects from multiple different schemas. Data sharing is also live, meaning as and when the data is updated by the provider in the provider data warehouse, the data is immediately visible to all the subscribers in a transactionally consistent fashion. So they are always looking at the latest data. Data sharing is also secure and governed. What that means is both on the provider side and the subscriber side, data sharing has enough controls to make sure that appropriate people are sharing the data and appropriate people are receiving the data. And the providers also get visibility into the usage of the data sets, such as which customers are using, which data sets are being used the most. so that they can validate the efficacy of the data sharing. To use AWS Data Exchange integration with Amazon Redshift, you will need to use Amazon Redshift RA3, which is Redshift's next generation instance type, both on the provider and the subscriber. Data sharing builds on Redshift RA3 managed storage, which decouples compute and storage, allowing each of them to scale and pay independently. With data sharing, workloads accessing the shared data are isolated from each other. Queries accessing the shared data, they run on the subscriber cluster, read the data directly from the Amazon Redshift managed storage without impacting the performance of the provider cluster. Subscriber clusters, as you can see here, are regular Amazon Redshift clusters. Although subscriber clusters can only read the shared data, they can always write their own private data to their cluster if desired. Building on a managed storage foundation also enables high-performance access to the data. Any frequently accessed data sets are cached on the local compute nodes of the subscriber cluster to speed up queries that are coming onto the shared data. With data sharing, the provider pays for the managed storage cost of the shared data and the subscriber pays for the compute. There is no charge for using data sharing within a region. Now let's take a look at what steps you need to take as a subscriber or as a provider to use AWS Data Exchange integration for Amazon Redshift. As a data subscriber, I can browse through the AWS Data Exchange catalog and find the data products that are relevant to my business and can start subscribing to them. Data providers can also create private offers and extend them to the subscribers for access via the AWS Data Exchange console. As a subscriber, I need to click on my product offers, review the offers that have been extended to me, review the Amazon Redshift data sets that come with the offer. This is the new functionality, and finish the subscription once I am comfortable with the subscription terms. As a next step, I associate it with one or more of my Redshift clusters by creating a database that points to the subscribed data share. As you can see here, there is a new tab in Amazon Redshift console under data shares called subscriptions. These point to the AWS Data Exchange subscriptions. Once you create a database, you can start using the tables, views, user-defined functions, anything that comes with the subscription as part of your Redshift queries and can start building analytic applications in minutes. Now let's take a look at what steps do I need to do as a provider. Provider side workflow is also very simple. As a data provider, I can include whatever data that I want as part of my AWS Data Exchange product. I can choose the granularity of the data. For example, I can share a single table or a set of tables or views, user-defined functions, an entire schema. So it is up to me on what data I want to license. As a simple example here, I'm going to create a product that includes just one Redshift table. I go through the usual process of creating a Redshift data share. I select a newly added option here called AWS Data Exchange Data Share, give it a name, pick a database within the cluster, and mark the data share to be accessible for publicly accessible clusters on the subscriber side. Then I start adding the relevant objects to the data share, and now my AWS Data Exchange data share is fully ready. So all these actions you have performed in the Amazon Redshift console. Now I'm ready to publish my data. So I go to the AWS Data Exchange console, expand the navigation on the left, and click on the owned data sets. So this will include the data sets that I have created and I want to create. I can quickly review the dataset creation steps, click on the create dataset to proceed, and I select the Amazon Redshift data share, give my dataset a name, enter a description, and create a data set by first creating a revision and then finalizing it. Then I associate terms and conditions and follow the standard process of publishing the product on AWS Data Exchange. So this process of publishing products has no difference whether you are publishing products based on AWS Amazon Redshift or based on the data that you have as files. The publishing process is exactly same. If you are publishing multiple products, you can automate all of these steps using the AWS command line interface or use Amazon Data Exchange APIs. So this is a summarized diagram of the workflow steps that we just discussed. Note that AWS Data Exchange integrates with AWS Marketplace to automate payments and billing to simplify the licensing process. The subscribers that got the subscriptions, they are granted read-only access to the data in Amazon Redshift of the provider. When a subscription starts, they get the access and automatically denied access when the subscription ends. So this process is completely automated. So now with this brief introduction on how it works, I would like to hand over to Alex from Mathematica to talk about how Mathematica is leveraging AWS Data Exchange integration with Amazon Redshift.
Okay, thanks Niraja. My name is Alex Bohl. I'm from Mathematica and I'm our Director of Data Innovation. And I'm here today of how we're using AWS to streamline how we deliver data products and services to our clients. A little bit about Mathematica. We're an employee-owned, mission-driven company that's serving a lot of federal, state, foundation, but also commercial, healthcare, life sciences, and health policy clients. And a lot of our expertise centers around public sector data, such as healthcare claims and beneficiary enrollment data, from the Centers for Medicare and Medicaid Services. We do a lot of this work in service of our mission, which is to improve public well-being and we want to bring that same mission to our data products and services that we post on AWS. So we have a large team of about 650 people in our healthcare unit and even more across our company, and we serve many different clients. We have many different types of staff, from data scientists to data engineers. And then we have very many different capabilities, all the way from different data sources, different technologies using the cloud, but still some on-prem and mainframe and even COBOL mainframe services, as well as many different capabilities such as AI, machine learning, and data engineering. And so all of this comes together to our clients in different ways, but the Data Innovation Lab at Mathematica is trying to package all these different services and experiences and expertise into different products. So there are three types of clients and services that Mathematica is focused on through our Data Innovation Lab and overall in our digital and commercial space. First, our data services. So in this case, we're leveraging our linkable claims and enrollment data for healthcare, and we have 100% of the data for Medicare and Medicaid beneficiaries. That's over 170 million covered lives over the past 5 to 7 years. This includes both Medicare Advantage and Medicaid managed care, which is quite unique. We then use these data, and as well as our broader data lake at our company, to develop analytic services, providing things such as predictive modeling, but also doing real-world evidence studies to determine, for example, the post-market safety of different products or drugs. And then lastly, we can also package any of these things in a digital project or service, be it via a dashboard, delivering predictions via an API, and so on. These things all work together and we all coordinate and they really enable each other. But our Data Innovation Lab and our work with AWS is focused on something very specific, which is trying to overcome the challenge with how we deliver data to our healthcare and life sciences clients. We noticed over the past few years that there was particular interest in just delivering data as opposed to professional services, which we had typically provided, meaning that we were typically customizing every different data analysis or data product that we were delivering. And while our clients really liked the customer service and the expertise we provided, sometimes they just wanted a data source. And so then we developed this menu of products that we can create. And we generally bucket those into population health, value-based care and payers, as well as provider systems. So for those of you who aren't in the healthcare and life sciences space, just a brief high-level overview of what these means. Population health means statistics on groups of patients or beneficiaries. Those are used by different population health organizations to manage care, for example. Value-based care is the idea of trying to connect quality and outcomes to payments, and different payers, such as insurers or the federal government, therefore need some benchmarks or prices or different insights in order to craft these types of arrangements with providers. And provider systems refer to hospitals, nursing homes, physician groups, and again, they have similar but opposite risks to value-based care providers and payers, given that they're on the other side of that arrangement. And the data that we provide enable these services to work. So if we think about the traditional process of how Mathematica was typically delivering data to our clients, it was, quite honest, long, with many different touch points, and oftentimes led to disappointing results. So oftentimes someone would start with a question such as, what is the average age of someone with diabetes in a given county? They started with that question. We would then work with them and put an application to use the data. That would go through a government review, other regulatory review, privacy review. That would take time. And then after we'd acquired that data, go through a little bit more contracting, many different touch points, ask questions, revise specs and requirements, and so on, until we finally got the data, started to do the work, and then we'd hand off and let them know that, okay, now it's ready to use, do the ETL. That might be up to a year. And so instead, we now wondered, okay, what if we had a menu of things that we could provide and instead strive for same-day delivery? So taking this 6 or 12-month process and trying to boil it down to same day. And this is enabled by 3 things working together. First of all, Mathematica's Data Innovation Lab. We've brokered arrangements for broad access to data to allow us to develop different data products that we can sell or use for approved purposes. We then post those on the AWS Data Exchange, which therefore makes it a lot easier to go through these contractual touch points, given that all the documentation is there. But I think what's really unique and what we really appreciated what Amazon or AWS has done recently is allow us to load that data into Redshift as opposed to an S3 bucket. And while the S3 bucket is great, this way we can allow direct access to our schema and to perform even some preliminary queries, just so that our customers and clients, and eventually now on AWS, our subscribers, can kind of vet our data before it gets up and running. And so this has allowed us to dramatically reduce our lead time, and I'll talk about how we're doing that with a couple of use cases here. So in the menu of population health, we have 2 different things that we currently have posted, but we plan to expand, and I'll talk about those later. The first is multiple chronic conditions. And the idea here is we want to enable real-world evidence studies in population health, meaning we want to provide insights into people with multiple chronic conditions that aren't available before. Typically, one condition or disease area is studied at a time, and what's unique about Mathematica is we can look at the intersection of people with multiple conditions and look at their care trajectories and so on. The next is Medicaid data quality, and this is a separate use case than before. Instead of trying to enable the ultimate insight that we want to deliver, in this case, we're providing a data product out there so you can vet what's even possible. We're putting this out there for free, and we're allowing our end users and ultimate subscribers to determine, is the data of sufficient quality before they even subscribe or ask us to build a custom product or service. And so they're able to go and look to see if studies are even feasible, for example, before they even pay $1. Now, quick background. I keep talking about public sector data, and I've talked about Medicare and Medicaid. So again, for the general audience, as a reminder, Medicare on average is for older adults, persons with disabilities, or end-stage renal disease. And there's over 65 million beneficiaries at any given time in the US. Now, I'm rounding up a little bit, but roughly half are in private Medicare plans, which we also sometimes call Medicare Advantage, and the other group would be in traditional Medicare, or sometimes called Medicare fee-for-service. On the Medicaid side, that's a very different, sometimes overlapping, but generally different population. So when we say Medicaid, oftentimes we actually mean Medicaid and CHIP, the Children's Health Insurance Program, that covers children, mothers, working age adults, people with long-term service and support needs, or who are disabled. And so there are, as I mentioned, 82 million, and over 3/4 of them are in managed care. And so while I wanted to highlight that here, is that typically for those who are going to acquire public sector data in a marketplace or to do a research study, typically only Medicare fee-for-service data are available or readily and easily usable. That's roughly for 30 million beneficiaries. And while that's great, you can't study and provide products and improve the care for the remainder 110 million beneficiaries that are receiving public sector benefits through either Medicare or Medicaid. Conversely, using encounter data, which means the data that's generated by managed care plans or private Medicare plans, is oftentimes very tricky. And so the benefit and the value add that we bring in addition to that big data capability and ecosystem environment I showed before is that Mathematica has the expertise in Medicare data and Medicaid data, both on the traditional or fee-for-service side as well as on the encounter side. So we can help paint the best picture possible for all 140 plus million beneficiaries at any given time. And again, we have immediate access for certain approved use cases, which means that you don't have to wait. We have tools and data engineering services and BI tools, et cetera, already available once working with our products. So to talk about a little bit about multiple chronic conditions. So at the national level, there are two big priorities right now. One is precision medicine. The idea of, instead of just talking generally about the experience or developing products or services for people with one condition, we'd like to tailor it to people with multiple conditions or other factors that we can address. And because maybe the services need to be tailored, the pharmacy benefits need to be tailored, or so on and so forth. But there's also use cases for population health, given that there are broad, large populations of people with certain conditions. So those are two big pushes that are happening right now to basically manage and provide comprehensive care to a large population, but also, when possible, drill down and meet the specific needs. With what's going on in AWS Data Exchange, as I mentioned, we have both the traditional Medicare in this case and the Medicare Advantage data there. And what's unique is there's basically a summary of health called an HCC, in hierarchical condition category, and we've calculated that both on the traditional Medicare and the Medicare Advantage data, and we've loaded that into Data Exchange, and those data are not readily available otherwise. And so in this case, you get to see both what's happening in traditional Medicare, you can see what's happening in Medicare Advantage, but also for the beneficiaries that cross over, because every year there's open enrollment, they have choice. And so, for example, why would this be useful? Is because this data source can help to study care trajectories to understand how often different populations, for example, someone with diabetes and chronic kidney disease goes to the doctor, goes to the emergency room, uses certain type of medications, and so on and so forth. And later on, we can help to eventually try to tie that to outcomes to understand if there are certain trajectories of care that deliver better outcomes for patients or populations. The next use case is Medicaid data quality, which I mentioned is very different. So to date, there's very limited research and innovation in the Medicaid space. And part of this is somewhat practical because the Medicaid data really vary in quality. The data come through plans or providers and funnel their way through the state, which go through different federal systems. But these are basically state plans with many different subplans for many different populations and types of patients. As you can imagine, it's very messy to reconcile and harmonize all those data. But on top of that, speaking Medicaid broadly, that's an incredibly diverse population. So then once you have that data, you need to drill down to the people and the populations that you're trying to study and help. And so on AWS Data Exchange, we focus on a use case that's focused on the social determinants of health, meaning not just trying to improve care by delivering better care in the doctor's office, but also trying to incorporate the social needs of the patients, so that whether they need meals, whether they need adult daycare, whether they live in the community or in a facility or so on. Our unique value add is our data allows us at the beneficiary level to identify whether someone's, for example, simultaneously enrolled in Medicare and Medicaid, whether they're a veteran, their primary language, whether they're in a managed care plan or a traditional plan, and so on. To get at this at the population level, you can't get at this at the census level. And this data we are allowing you to see, could I even begin to explore these types of studies with the Medicaid data before you sign up? If you just determine if it's feasible, we can create a new data source for you that you can subscribe to on the AWS Data Exchange. So an example query would be, what are the social needs of disabled adults living at home? Mathematica, you'd be able to go in and query our data exchange product, which we'll demo in a moment, and you'll be able to see whether, for example, that's even feasible in your state, county, et cetera, that you're looking into. So where are we going from here? So again, what we really like is that Redshift, AWS Redshift allows us to have a repeatable schema that lowers our maintenance costs and allows us to add to our data products over time. So we can add years, add conditions, bring Medicaid data alongside Medicare data, you name it. It allows us to scale. Our subscribers like it and our customers like it because then it's repeatable and it's already ETL'd for them, so they can just plug in and keep going. And the next refresh, they don't have to go to S3, do their own ETL, do their cleaning. Again, we've done that for them. They just plug it into their tools and keep going. So I'm going to pivot to a demo in a moment, but again, the key takeaways is that Mathematica, we really enjoy providing data on AWS Data Exchange and especially with Redshift connected, because it really helped us reduce our lead time to our customers, and we're getting toward single day delivery. We can provide transparency, which is a very important part of our mission, so everyone knows what's available and what they're subscribing to before it happens. And lastly, we can easily expand our offerings over time at a reduced cost and lower maintenance. So thank you, everyone.
To access the Data Exchange console, search AWS Data Exchange from the main management console. Within this console, you can click to explore available data products to browse the catalog. For our demo's purposes, we will filter to Redshift data products and select the Mathematica Medicare pilot dataset. This is a dataset collecting Medicare beneficiary information and comorbid conditions across 3 years, filtered by diabetic comorbidities, state, and county. There's further information on the dataset and product details on the page. To continue, you can click to subscribe. Fill in your company and relevant contact information. Then click the button to submit a subscription request, at which point Mathematica will approve the subscription request and you will be able to access the data within your Redshift instance. Now that we are subscribed to the dataset, we can create a database within our Redshift cluster. Within the Redshift dashboard, first make sure we have an available Redshift cluster. Then click the Data Shares tab. On the Data Shares tab, click Subscriptions to see our new approved subscription. From there, you can click the button to create a database from the data share. And for the purposes of our demo, we will call this database DemoDB. Then click Create. Next, we are ready to connect to the DemoDB database in Redshift to query our subscribed data. You can view your available data shares through the Redshift query editor and browse through the shared tables just like you would your first-party data. Now I'll walk through some example queries to show you what can be done with this Mathematica data. Our first example compares the change in prevalence between the full Medicare population and the diabetic population by state and year, looking for HCCs that are disproportionately affect the diabetic population. This query will exclude a number of diabetes-specific HCCs and instead look at any related comorbidities. And here you can see a number of HCCs that you would expect to be closely related to diabetes, such as atherosclerosis, dialysis, amputations, morbid obesity, and other similar comorbid conditions. Next, we will look at HCCs within the state of Florida between our Medicare Advantage population and our Medicare fee-for-service population, filtered on a number of high-risk COVID comorbidities. Here you can see the difference in prevalence between the two payer populations for these comorbidities that may pose higher risk of COVID complications. Finally, we'll trend data across all 3 years on the state and county level to look for HCCs that have shown increasing prevalence across all 3 years in the state of California. Here you can see a number of HCCs that look like they may be related to the California wildfires, with lung abscess and lung damage principal among them. Now, these 3 examples provide some ideas of insights that can be drawn from this data, but these data can also be joined with any of your first-party data or other data shares within Redshift to provide additional insights. In addition to querying the data in Redshift, it's also available for visualization in QuickSight. And here we've prepared a dashboard that shows some results of the example queries we just provided. This first chart shows the prevalence of diabetic comorbidities and how their disproportionate share between the diabetic population and full Medicare population for our top 10 most disproportionate comorbidities. This is filtered further for the state of California in 2019, and we can drill down into these individual comorbidities, as you'll see here with amputation status. Next, we're showing the results of the payer query that filters by COVID risk factors for the state of Florida. And here you can see the differences in prevalence for these COVID risk factors between the Medicare fee-for-service and Medicare Advantage populations for the state of Florida in the year 2019. And finally, we've selected out the lung HCC from California to show how it trends across counties for the 3 years available in our data from 2017, 2018, 2019. Again, these are just examples of what's available in the data set, and additional results could be created or joined with other data sources within Redshift.
So I hope you all enjoyed that demo. I certainly did. And so now I'm going to go and discuss some of do a summary real quick and discuss some key takeaways. So overall, AWS Data Exchange for Amazon Redshift lets you find and subscribe to third-party data that you can query, analyze, and build applications with in minutes. No ETL, no heavy lifting necessary. You're also reading data at the source, so you know that you're always using the latest data because you have access to it as soon as the data provider makes a change. It also allows you to manage entitlements, billing, and payments automatically. And it allows you to go and access third-party databases, data files, and APIs, all with a single subscription. If you have any questions about this feature, feel free to go and email us at adxforredshift@amazon.com, as you can see on the screen. And additionally, we have some shortened links that you can use as well. For the feature page, just check out a.co/ADX4RS feature. If you want to go and see some of the available data products we have, check out a.co/ADX4RS alone. And if you're looking to go and get started as a data provider and you want to see the docs, you can go and check out a.co/ADX4RS docs. So thank you very much. We hope you enjoyed this presentation. We hope to see you using AWS Data Exchange for Amazon Redshift soon.